Hi everybody, it's Kyle. Hey, today I want to cover a principle real quick with you that's been a huge benefit to me with my typical kids, more than just my kids on the autism spectrum. And I fell into this technique accidentally quite a few years back. I had a client and he was having some real problems with one of his grandsons. And because I could see it was really bothering him, I went out and found him a book called How to Control Your Out of Control Teenager. And I actually read the book before I gave it to my client. And it was so good that I ended up going back and buying a copy for myself, which is interesting because at the time I didn't even have teenagers. My kids were really young. But one of the principles in there was a principle called hot buttons. And basically what it said was that our kids, as they become teenagers, become experts at when they get in uncomfortable positions with us, or when they don't want to discuss something with us, or they're not getting their way, they'll press one of our hot buttons, their parents' hot buttons. And basically what that means is they know what really gets under our skin, and they can set us off and put us in a state that's unproductive for us and them, so that they can manipulate their way into getting whatever they want. And I found this pretty interesting, and I noticed as my kids got older, they would try it, but because I knew how it worked, they were never really able to do it with me. And so it never became an effective technique for them. But I did, at one point, work with a young man who I got to know pretty well. I knew he had some problems when he was a younger kid, and somehow or another I got him to tell me a story that was a great example of him pressing the hot buttons of his parents and getting exactly what he wanted, even though it wasn't probably what was best for him. So I want to share that story with you as kind of an illustration of how this whole process works. So anyway, Christmas morning, this was a family with, I think, 3 or 4 kids, and he was the third oldest, and he was about 14. And after they opened all their gifts, he really wasn't a fan of hanging around his family. He didn't really like his family too much, which can happen to 14-year-old kids. And so he asked his mom, he said, "Hey, is it okay if I go over and hang out with my friends?" And his mom said, "Well, it's Christmas Day, why don't you hang out with us?" And so he basically, because he didn't want to be there, and he knew one of his mom's hot buttons was if he cursed, he dropped the F-bomb on her. And she, I guess, absolutely lost her mind, is what the young man told me. And just started screaming and yelling at her, and his dad got involved, and there was all this arguing and fighting, and this young man just kind of held his ground and kept dropping the F-bomb until his mom finally said, "You just need to get out of our house, because I'm not having you talk in our house like that." And at that point, he left and went to his friend's house, which is exactly what he wanted to do to begin with. And so over the years, I've seen my older 2 typical sons try to do this. There are certain things that really get under my skin and kind of put me into a state of anger or frustration with them. And if I'm asking them questions that it's going down a path they don't like, they'll just divert to one of my hot buttons. And so I really had to identify what my hot buttons were and realize what they were doing when they were doing it. And once I started to do that, I could keep the conversation on the path I wanted it on, and my kids couldn't manipulate me anymore. And so what I want you to do is think about the things that your kids do that make you the maddest, or frustrate you the most, or maybe make you cry or get really, really upset to a point where you're not really able to focus on what it is you're trying to do anymore. And this can happen in all kinds of situations. I teach a Sunday school class, And I've seen kids in my Sunday school class not really like what's happening, or really want to escape or get out of class, or, that's how teenagers are, and say something to try to hurt my feelings or hurt one of the other kids' feelings, because they know if they can press a hot button, there's a reasonably good chance they can frustrate those around them and then escape or get their way. And so that's the message I want to leave to you today. What I want you to do is kind of think about all the different ways that your kids, and maybe even your spouse, can get you just really riled up. You know what they are. And identify those hot buttons, and then realize next time what's happening when you're getting your hot buttons pressed. And here's what I can tell you. If you'll do that, you'll find that you're not so easily manipulated, and you can keep your focus on where it needs to be. In a lot of cases, these kids don't want the focus to be on what you want it to be, and so they try to use this as a manipulation tool to get their way. So hopefully that's helpful. Find your hot buttons, identify them, know what they can do and say to press those hot buttons, and then take that manipulation away from those kids. And what you'll find is you'll be much more able to manage situations in a more productive way, and keep the conversation, and keep keep going down the path you need to go down as a parent. And that path is typically what's best for you and your children. So hopefully that's helpful. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.